Welcome back, everybody. It is Tuesday, August 11th, 2026, and we left off on Genesis 25. Abraham took another wife, whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan fathered Sheba and Dedan. The sons of Dedan were Ashurim, Letushim, and Lemumim. The sons of Midian were Epha, Epher, Hanok, Abida, and Eldah. All these were the children of Keturah. Abraham gave all he had to Isaac. But the sons of his concubines Abraham gave gifts, and while he was still living, he sent them away from his son Isaac, eastward to the east country. These are the days of the years of Abraham's life, 175 years. Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. Isaac and Ishmael, his sons, buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, east of Mamre, the field that Abraham purchased from the Hittites. There Abraham was buried, with Sarah his wife. After the death of Abraham, God blessed Isaac his son, and Isaac settled at Beer-lahai-roi. These are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's servant, bore to Abraham. These are the names of the sons of Ishmael, named in the order of their birth: Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael, and Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jeter, Naphish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names, by their villages and by their encampments, 12 princes according to their tribes. These are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. He breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people. They settled from Havilah to Shur, which is opposite Egypt in the direction of Assyria. He settled over against all his kinsmen. These are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham fathered Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel the Aramean of Paddan Aram, the sister of Laban the Aramean, to be his wife. And Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord granted his prayer, and Rebekah his wife conceived. The children struggled together within her, and she said, "If it is thus, why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from within you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other. The older shall serve the younger." When her days to give birth were completed, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out, all his body like a hairy cloak. So they called his name Esau. Afterward, his brother came out with his hand holding Esau's heel. So his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. When the boys grew up, Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, while Jacob was a quiet man, dwelling in tents. Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Once, when Jacob was cooking stew, Esau came in from the field, and he was exhausted. And Esau said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stew, for I am exhausted." Therefore his name was called Edom. Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright now." Esau said, "I am about to die. Of what use is a birthright to me?" Jacob said, "Swear to me now." So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank and rose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Okay, so a couple of questions there. Firstly, what is the meaning of saying his name was Edom? In Genesis 25:30, Edom is essentially a word play on the Hebrew word for red. The verse is explaining how Esau came to be associated with that name. So I guess like a nickname. The Hebrew is roughly red equals Adam, Edom equals Edom. Okay. Esau asked Jacob for some of that red stuff, the lentil stew, because he is exhausted. So when the text says, therefore his name was called Edom, it means Esau acquired the nickname Edom, aka red, because of this incident. Okay. There's a deeper significance, though. Esau and Edom are closely connected throughout the Old Testament. Esau becomes the ancestor of the Edomites, the Reds, and their territory becomes known as Edom. Genesis later makes this explicit. Esau is Edom. There is also a deliberate pattern of red imagery around Esau. When he is born, Genesis 25:25 says he came out red, all his body like a hairy cloak. Then, I don't think it said red, but I take the meaning. Then in verse 30, he desperately asks for the red stew and receives the name Edom. So we haven't got, I remember this story because we got pulled into it when we were reading the New Testament. I forget how we got here exactly, but we'll keep reading and then I'll come back and ask more questions. But I know the story's not quite complete yet, so let's keep reading and then we'll come back. I just wanted to know what that meant. Okay, so Edom means red, and that's a nickname. So Esau, the older brother of Jacob, gives up his birthright for some stew. Genesis 26, verse 1. Now there was a famine in the land because the former famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Gerar to Abimelech, king of the Philistines. And the Lord appeared to him and said, do not go down to Egypt. Dwell in the land of which I shall tell you. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. And will bless you. For to you and to your offspring I will give all these lands, and I will establish the oath that I swore to Abraham your father. I will multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven, and I will give to your offspring all these lands. And in your offspring all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. So Isaac settled in Gerar. When the men of the place asked him about his wife, he said, she is my sister. For he feared to say, my wife, thinking, lest the men of the place should kill me because of Rebekah. So he's doing exactly what his father did. That's interesting. Wow. Except Rebekah is not actually his sister this time, but she is his cousin, distant cousin. Because she was attractive in appearance. When he had been there for a long time, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out of a window and saw Isaac laughing with Rebekah, his wife. So Abimelech called Isaac and said, behold, she is your wife. How then could you say, she is my sister? Isaac said to him, because I thought, lest I die because of her. Abimelech said, and Abraham did it to this same king. I don't know if this is the same Abimelech, but he's probably like, what's with this family and lying about their wives? Abimelech said, what is this ye have done to us? One of the people might easily have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us. So Abimelech warned all the people, saying, whoever touches this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. And Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold. The Lord blessed him, and the man became rich and gained more and more until he became very wealthy. So I keep harping on this, not to condemn necessarily anybody else, but I think it's fascinating that the son is doing exactly what the father did, and they still, like, for this level of deception, are never, at least in the Bible, it doesn't say directly that they're ever chastised for it or ever even met with any kind of negative consequence. I think it's interesting and fascinating that Isaac tells the same kind of lie or engages in the same kind of deception that Abraham did to the very same king, and is also met with the same result in that he reaps great wealth from it. What are we to interpret from this pattern of behavior, and what do the theologians say about this? And a paste. Yes, the repetition is almost certainly deliberate, and ancient and later Christian interpreters noticed it. But one important correction sharpens the pattern. Genesis does not say Isaac became wealthy because of the deception. All right, yeah, okay. He's wealthy because God blessed him. So I should say the deception did not interrupt God's promise, which was the same with Abraham. So that's not news to us in terms of what we've already, talked through, but it's interesting. His prosperity follows after Abimelech discovers the deception, publicly protects Rebekah, and Isaac remains in the land. Genesis explicitly attributes the prosperity to Yahweh's blessing. The Lord blessed him. That distinction is central to interpreting the episode. What Genesis seems to be doing is showing us something more unsettling and more theologically interesting than deception pays. So Abraham passed on to Isaac, or rather you could say Isaac inherited faith and inherited fear, the same kind of fear from his father. The parallels are remarkably tight. Abraham twice presents Sarah as his sister, which we read yesterday. In Genesis 20, the ruler is Abimelech of Gerar. Then Isaac goes to Gerar, encounters in Abimelech, fears that the local men will kill him because Rebekah is beautiful, and says, she is my sister. The narrative practically invites us to remember Abraham, indeed. And there is a striking irony. Immediately before this episode, God reiterates the Abrahamic promise to Isaac, just like he told Abraham, literally right before he deceived Pharaoh for the first time. Yet almost immediately, Isaac acts as though his survival depends upon his own deception. So the sequence is approximately divine promise, human fear, deception, exposure, pagan king's rebuke, divine protection anyway, and then still get the blessing. That same basic theological rhythm appears in Abraham's story. The point, therefore, isn't that Isaac's lie produces blessing. It is that Isaac's failure does not nullify God's promise. Okay, so let me see if there's anything really gripping here. It's pretty much... Okay, let's just go back. All right. More or less the same point, which it's an important one. God does not go back on his promises, despite our our flaws and our lack of faith, you could say. Okay, where were we? Lest I die because of her. Verse 12. And Isaac sowed in that land and reaped in the same year 100-fold. The Lord blessed him, and the man became rich and gained more and more until he became very wealthy. He had possessions of flocks and herds and many servants, so that the Philistines envied him. Now the Philistines had stopped and filled with earth all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham his father. And Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us, for you are much mightier than we." So Isaac departed from there and encamped in the valley of Gerar and settled there. And Isaac dug again the wells of water that had been dug in the days of Abraham his father, which the Philistines had stopped after the death of Abraham. And he gave them the names that his father had given them. But when Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found there was a well of spring water, the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, "The water is ours." So he called the name of the well Esek, because they contended with him. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that also. So he called its name Sitnah. And he moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he called its name Rehoboth, saying, "For now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land." From there he went up to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared to him the same night and said, "I am the God of Abraham your father. Fear not, for I am with you and will bless you and multiply your offspring for my servant Abraham's sake." So he built an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants dug a well. When Abimelech went to him from Gerar with Ahuzath his advisor and Phicol the commander of his army, Isaac said to them, "Why have you come to see me, seeing that you hate me and have sent me away from you?" They said, "We see plainly that the Lord has been with you." So we said, "Let there be a sworn pact between us, between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, that you will do us no harm, just as we have not touched you and have done to you nothing but good and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord." So he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. In the morning they rose early and exchanged oaths. And Isaac sent them on their way, and they departed from him in peace. That same day Isaac's servants came and told him about the well that they had dug, and said to him, "We have found water." He called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. When Esau was 40 years old, he took Judith, the daughter of Beeri, the Hittite, to be his wife, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. When Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called Esau his older son and said to him, "My son," and he answered, "Here I am." He said, "Behold, I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now then, take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me, and prepare for me delicious food, such as I love, and bring it to me so that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die." Now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to his son Esau. So when Esau went to the field to hunt for game and bring it, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "I heard your father speak to your brother Esau. Bring me a game and prepare for me delicious food, that I may eat it and bless you before the Lord before I die. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice as I command you. Go to the flock and bring me 2 good young goats, so that I may prepare from them delicious food for your father, such as he loves, and you shall bring it to your father to eat, so that he may bless you before he dies." But Jacob said to his mother, "Behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be mocking him, and bring a curse upon myself and not a blessing." His mother said to him, "Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice, and go, bring them to me." So he went and took them and brought them to his mother, and his mother prepared delicious food, such as his father loved. Then Rebekah took the best garments of Esau her older son, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob her younger son. And the skins of the young goats she put on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. And she put the delicious food and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. So he went in to his father and said, "My father." And he said, "Here I am. Who are you, my son?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Now sit up and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me." But Isaac said to his son, "How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son?" He answered, "Because the Lord your God granted me success." Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come near, that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not." So Jacob went near to Isaac his father, who felt him and said, "The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau." And he did not recognize him, because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. He said, "Are you really my son Esau?" He answered, "I am." Then he said, "Bring it near to me, that I may eat of my son's game and bless you." So he brought it near to him, and he ate. And he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come near and kiss me, my son." So he came near and kissed him. And Isaac smelled the smell of his garments and blessed him and said, "See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let peoples serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you." As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, when Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, Esau his brother came in from his hunting. He also prepared delicious food and brought it to his father. And he said to his father, "Let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that you may bless me." His father Isaac said to him, "Who are you?" He answered, "I am your son, your firstborn, Esau." Then Isaac trembled very violently and said, "Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me, and I ate it all before you came, and I have blessed him? Yes, and he shall be blessed." As soon as Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, "Bless me, even me also, O my father." But he said, "Your brother came deceitfully and has taken away your blessing." Esau said, "Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has cheated me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing." Then he said, "Have you not reserved a blessing for me?" Isaac answered and said to Esau, "Behold, I have made him lord over you, and all his brothers I have given to him for servants. And with grain and wine I have sustained him. What then can I do for you, my son?" Esau said to his father, "Have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, "Behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall your dwelling be, and away from the dew of heaven on high. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck." Now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are approaching, then I will kill my brother Jacob." But the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob her younger son and said to him, "Behold, your brother Esau comforts himself about you by planning to kill you. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee to Laban my brother in Haran, and stay with him a while, until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereft of you both in one day?" Then Rebekah said to Isaac, "I loathe my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women like these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be to me?" So this is all pretty crazy to me because I don't understand, but we're going to find out why are things this way? I don't understand the representation because, so once again, okay, let's just do it from the beginning. Let me mold out my question here. Esau is, by right, since he's the elder, the oldest son, the one that should, at least by tradition, should inherit everything from the father, everything that Jacob, the younger son, actually ended up getting. That's by tradition. But God had already told Rebekah that this would be the case. So even before Esau gives up his birthright to Jacob for the lentil stew, Rebekah was already told that this would be the case. But then, so there's that. So there's deception, and then there's a guaranteed blessing from God directly, but still Jacob, I'm not going to say he tricked him. He just said, I guess you call it opportunism. He said, "Give me your birthright and I'll give you some of the stew." And then Esau, you could call him foolish for doing it, but he did it. So then it's odd that later on, when it comes time to actually claim the birthright, because now Isaac is dying, Esau, I guess you could say he forgets, or selective memory. He doesn't seem to recall that he already gave away his birthright. But even still, Jacob doesn't seem to remember either, because he opts for deception under the instruction of his mother. And then even more than that, I don't understand why it's Isaac's blessing to give in the first place. I guess but I suppose, like, in the end, Isaac did end up blessing Jacob, but Jacob again gained it through deception. But he had already had it. I don't know. This is very strange to me. I think it's let's just break it down. Let's get a breakdown on it. Wait, so that's Genesis 27. Yeah. I'm having trouble interpreting what we're supposed to glean from Genesis 27. It seems to be continuing on the theme of deception, not necessarily invalidating God's promises, but what do the theologians say about what we're to learn from this exchange between first God promising Rebekah that the older son, Esau, would serve Jacob, and then Esau giving up his birthright for a bowl of stew? So one could say it was, at that point, rightfully Jacob's. But when it comes time for Isaac to give the blessing, Rebekah and Jacob still engage in deception instead of just calling on the agreement that Esau agreed to give up the birthright. And also, why is it presented as, why is Isaac's blessing presented as a singular thing that only Isaac can give when really it's God's blessing? Why is it presented as though it's something that once given cannot be undone when it's not truly his decision in the first place? Your reading is tracking one of the central tensions of Genesis 27. God's promise is fulfilled, but almost nobody in the chapter behaves particularly well in bringing it about. The narrative seems deliberately constructed so that we cannot comfortably say Jacob got the blessing because his deception was justified. A few distinctions that commentators and theologians commonly make help enormously. So number one, the birthright and the blessing aren't quite the same thing. Okay. Genesis 25 and Genesis 27 concern related but distinguishable things. In Genesis 25:23, God tells Rebekah before the twins are born, the older shall serve the younger. Then in Genesis 25:29 through 34, Esau sells Jacob his birthright. That ordinarily concerns the firstborn son's privileged status and inheritance. Okay. The narrator explicitly evaluates Esau negatively. Thus, Esau despised his birthright. But in Genesis 27, Isaac intends to give Esau his blessing. The blessing is not simply a legal transfer of the birthright. It is a patriarchal pronouncement concerning fertility, prosperity, dominion, and covenantal destiny. He says, "May God give you the dew of heaven, be the Lord over your brothers. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you." That last line especially echoes God's covenantal promise to Abraham in Genesis 12:3. So Jacob cannot simply walk in and say, "Here's my contract for the birthright, give me the blessing." Esau's sale certainly strengthens the narrative's case that Esau has forfeited his privileged position, but the blessing remains something Isaac himself intends to confer. And that's precisely where the family conflict becomes so ugly. So number two, Isaac may himself be resisting what God has revealed. What do you mean? This is easy to miss. God has already announced that the elder will serve the younger. Yet in chapter 27, Isaac attempts to bless Esau. Okay. That's almost a direct inversion of the oracle Rebekah received. The text never explicitly says how much Isaac knew about the oracle, so we shouldn't claim more than Genesis tells us. But within the literary structure, the tension is unmistakable. Isaac is trying to establish Esau as dominant when God's announced purpose is Jacob's dominance. And Genesis gives us a reason Isaac might favor Esau that isn't especially flattering. Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. By chapter 27, the covenant family is profoundly dysfunctional. Isaac secretly arranges the blessing for his favorite son. Rebekah secretly counteracts him for hers. Jacob lies to his father. Esau previously treated his birthright contemptuously. The extraordinary theological point is that God's covenant survives all of them, but that does not mean Rebekah and Jacob needed to deceive Isaac. So this is where the question gets interesting. Rebekah has something much stronger than a clever plan. She has God's word. God already told her what would happen. Yet when the apparent circumstances threaten that promise, she doesn't wait to see how God will accomplish it. She engineers the outcome herself. Okay, so we're coming back to the same theme as Abraham and Sarah whenever they had when they didn't wait for God's promise for a child and they went and brought the servant girl in so that she could be impregnated by Abraham. Same kind of thing. A long Christian interpretive tradition therefore sees a familiar Genesis pattern here: human beings attempting to secure by their own devices something God has already promised to give. All right. It's remarkably similar to Abraham and Sarah with Hagar. God has promised descendants. The promise appears impossible. Therefore, they devise a human mechanism for making the promise happen. And it produces misery. The same thing happens here. Rebekah succeeds and essentially loses Jacob as a result. She says, "Let your curse be on me, my son." Jacob gets the blessing, but immediately has to flee. Esau wants to kill him. Rebekah sends Jacob away for a few days, but those few days become decades. As far as the Genesis narrative tells us, she never sees her favorite son again. Jacob, meanwhile, will spend much of his subsequent life being deceived by others. Most spectacularly by Laban. The deceiver encounters a better deceiver. So Genesis does not need to insert the sentence, "Jacob's deception was sinful," for the narrative to criticize it. The consequences do much of the theological commentary. Okay, I see where this is going. Okay, so number 4, then why does God honor a blessing obtained fraudulently? This gets to what I think is the deepest issue in your question. It does, and initially I was thinking, why, which does not give enough credit to God, and also doesn't. I suppose I also have to remember that the Bible isn't there to necessarily paint a picture of moral. It's not there to paint a picture of what is morally right all the time. Like, these aren't heroes that we're reading about. These were just real people, and these were their interactions with God. They weren't perfect, obviously. That's, if we've learned nothing else already from reading about Adam and Eve and Abraham and everybody else. Even in direct contact with God and getting direct promises from God, they still struggle with faith and then try to engineer their own outcomes, even though it's been promised by God. So, and we're no better. We don't have, I don't hear from God directly, as in like speaking directly to me, but I still do these same things. And so I guess it's no more dubious than how we act today. But I guess that's the part that I just have to remember, that I struggle with. So I guess I'm pearl clutching in a way, and I shouldn't do that. Anyway, because Jacob's deception is not what makes God's election of Jacob valid. It was already valid. Paul later makes precisely this point when discussing Jacob and Esau in Romans 9:10-12. God's choice was announced. He says, though they were not yet born and had done nothing either good or bad. So the sequence matters. God chooses Jacob before he's even born. Esau despises his birthright, which you could say is irrelevant. Really, the only thing that matters is God chose Jacob, and he's not going to go back on his promise. Isaac favors Esau. Rebekah and Jacob deceive Isaac. Jacob receives the blessing. So in a grand sense, I guess you could say God will always fulfill his promise, but we can do a great job of mucking it up in the process when we try to insert human method here instead of just trusting in God. I think that's the overarching theme. It doesn't turn evil into good. It means human sin cannot finally frustrate God's purposes. Okay, number 5. But your hardest question is the blessing. Why can't Isaac simply take it back? Well, I don't know. It's probably my least interesting question. Number 6. But isn't that making Isaac more powerful than God? I don't pose that at all, so we don't need to read that. Number 7. So why the mistaken blessing? That's okay. All right, that's very long. All right, so let's go back to the scripture. Where were we? Oh, we were done with Genesis 27 in totality. Okay, so now we're on to Genesis 28, and we're at 40 minutes. So that's probably a good spot to stop for tonight. So we will pick it up tomorrow on Genesis 28, verse 1. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to drop a sub, share it with a friend. God bless you guys, and good night.